Forget Hollywood heroes and white horses. The Wild West, you know, is an absolute sham. The true American frontier hid macabre and bizarre horrors that were erased from history. Today, I will reveal 20 shocking and insane facts about the Wild West that seem like pure fiction. Prepare your mind because the raw and naked reality is much scarier than any movie script. The United States Army actually imported dozens of camels to cross the dry western deserts. This bizarre and exotic troop terrified the local horses, creating enormous chaos in the towns. Believe it or not, gun control was extremely strict in the main cities during that era. In famous towns, visitors had to hand over their revolvers to prevent massive bloodbaths. The typical Caucasian cowboy is a huge myth fabricated purely to please movie theater audiences. The overwhelming majority of the brave men who herded cattle were actually black and Mexican. Countless legendary towns we know today were built exclusively with dirty money from brothels and underground casinos. The addiction of others was the true economic engine that paved the streets and funded the frontier police stations. The cruel journeys along the trails were never heroic. The biggest cause of horrific deaths was never attacks by native tribes, but fatal outbreaks of cholera and dysentery that turned the routes into an open-air graveyard. The bizarre and cruel orphan trains transported thousands of lonely children to the West with the false promise of a new home. In sad reality, they were forced into slave labor and suffered terrifying physical abuse. The lethal shooter John Wesley Hardin was dominated by relentless cruelty. One late night, he shot and killed a man simply because the victim was snoring too loudly in the next room, disturbing his sleep in the dark. The precarious medicine of the time felt like a torture method fueled by despair. Without proper anesthetics, amateur barbers sawed off the arms and legs of injured workers using dirty tools and only gulps of whiskey to ease the pain. The sheer loneliness of the unforgiving winter quickly turned normal human beings into monsters. The legendary Donner Party was completely trapped by intense cutting snow in the high mountains. To survive the deadly cold, they descended into the deep insanity of cannibalism, devouring the flesh of their own relatives and leaving a haunting trail of pure terror. The macabre practice of scalping victims was heavily encouraged. The government itself turned this into a billion-dollar trade, paying high bounties for every proof of death and motivating unscrupulous hunters to massacre peaceful populations without a drop of mercy. The infamous bandit Elmer McCurdy met an absurdly macabre fate after his violent death. His cold body was improperly mummified and sold as a bizarre circus attraction, being displayed for long decades before people realized it was a real and deeply disturbing human corpse. Absolute isolation in the mining camps created a devastating and invisible epidemic of venereal diseases. Syphilis tragically drove miners insane, and the bizarre medical treatment involved lethal baths of pure mercury that killed patients long before the bacteria could. The legendary sheriffs we consider pure heroes today frequently lived in total illegality. Acclaimed figures ran secret casinos and manipulated municipal laws for their own benefit, using their beautiful silver badges as a mere shield to protect their disgusting actions. The great magnates of the early railroads possessed truly ruthless private armies. They ordered the cruel extermination of striking workers and humble farmers, spilling gallons of innocent blood just to avoid delaying the continuous and frantic expansion of their businesses. Brutal modern slavery flourished intensely in the terrifying mines and railways. Asian immigrants were forced to detonate highly unstable dynamite in deadly abysses, only to be discarded and deported by the authorities immediately after finishing the cruel high-risk work. In the complete and absurd absence of legal state presence, sinister groups of vigilantes created shadow courts. They executed forged trials in the middle of the night and hung dozens of suspects from sturdy trees, normalizing brutal lynchings in the dusty routine of the towns. Financial despair drove small towns to stage fake bloody shootouts and disturbing lynchings on their main streets. The sole purpose of this highly macabre theater was to deeply shock wealthy tourists and profit immensely from their naive fascination with fictional danger. The abyss of isolation hides the terrifying rates of female suicide in the wild territories. Locked inside tiny wooden shacks during violent storms, many women entirely lost their sanity, finding in death the only real escape route from that desolate and empty chaos. The heavily romanticized life of train robbers masks the dark fact that the vast majority died of pure starvation. Hiding in the hottest canyons of the region, Exhausted fugitives frequently shot themselves just to avoid the indescribable torture of severe dehydration. The darkest fact of all is that this perverse and lethal mentality never actually disappeared. The ancient spirit of violent domination was never extinguished. It merely swapped dusty dirt roads for the dazzling offices of the stock market. Classic stagecoach robberies masterfully evolved into devastating cyber frauds that annihilate entire economies in seconds. The greedy cattle barons who orchestrated cruel massacres gave way to gigantic international corporations. They continued to completely crush their small opponents and oppress everyday citizens with the exact same coldness of the most ruthless and feared ancient hitmen. Every heroic myth gloriously projected in action movies tries to cover up the dark stains of coagulated blood. The foundation of a massive country inevitably required the methodical massacre and repulsive exploitation of entire communities that were erased from official records. We have been systematically trained to idolize charming gunslingers, solemnly ignoring the fact that they were brutal clinical psychopaths. Embellishing extreme violence was the master trick designed by higher authorities to pardon all the priceless tragedies caused by harsh progress. The disgusting commodification of a dead man exposed at children's fairs highlights the absolute loss of ethical boundaries. Profit always spoke infinitely louder than any natural compassion, turning the agony of others into a pitiful spectacle to entertain perverse minds. Facing the horrific medical procedures of the past forcibly strips the makeup off the grand adventure. Ingesting heavy metals or amputating infected limbs on dirty tables proves the greatest villain of that ruthless time didn't carry a gun, but lived in freezing winds and bacteria. The terrible journey that ended in human flesh devoured during blizzards proves the extreme fragility of morality. When the primal instinct of survival brutally tightens its grip, any divine rule simply collapses, unleashing the irrational predator resting deep in the human mind. Funding deaths in exchange for coins exposes the unimaginable degree of depravity of the rulers of that period. Astute leaders outsource continuous genocide to keep their own nails clean while calmly planning the cruel domination of newly found and highly prosperous trade routes. Realizing that the immense physical workforce was essentially black or native shatters the prejudiced narrative propagated by major studios. Silent, cowardly racism confiscated the legitimate courage of those wonderful pioneers, replacing their brave faces with European features. The luxurious settlements funded by the criminal underworld exposed the false purity of those societies. Governors delivered speeches on justice and heavenly order, yet greedily collected blood-stained taxes from marginal taverns to perfectly guarantee the payment of their rich bills. The merciless human grinding required to pave the railways shows the true cost of modernity. Honest and suffering workers exhaled their last breath inhaling the ashes of cheap dynamite, producing astronomical billion-dollar profits for the cruel elites sitting comfortably in the capital. All these dark historical nightmares firmly prove that the region was an absolute hellscape. Deeply investigating such censored memories ruthlessly rips the thick scales off our innocent eyes. Extreme aggression was never viewed as an unwanted tragedy, but rather as the only logical strategy applied to conquer the violent expansions of the massive North American territory. The fast-paced clashes romanticized by cameras hide the terrifying agony of drowning in one's own blood. Losing a life during a petty bar argument over lost pennies demonstrates the completely non-existent value that humanity held in that vast and isolated, scorching purgatory. We must urgently bury the fanciful imagery of beautiful damsels and unshakable virtuous men. The authentic frontier resident exhaled the characteristic stench of constant fear and would commit any imaginable repulsive atrocity just to celebrate the dawn of a new, exhausting day. The idolized speed on the trigger never denoted a rare sign of righteous nobility, but revealed the mere agonizing despair for daily survival. The mutual extermination of fellow citizens left deep, devastating scars on the family structures of countless traumatized generations. The most disgusting element of this entire social nightmare is the terrifying indifference of those who cheered. Watching a human being suffocate tied to a rope was widely considered a festive family event, proving that sadism became the main course at those dark dinner tables. Behind every imposing statue gleaming under the harsh, arid sun, shallow hidden graves scream for denied justice. The glorified wealth of that period carries the unpayable invoice of profound madness, strictly and surgically installed in the shattered minds of admirable real pioneers. Those endless rocky valleys forever imprisoned the piercing screams of prolonged human suffering. The reddish earth consumed an absurdly larger volume of bitter tears than any fictional and wonderfully overproduced script could ever attempt to forge on the gigantic movie screens. The repulsive schemes structured by ancient criminal barons maintain their disturbing effectiveness in present times. Corporate wickedness injected its subtle venom into the gears of modern laws, designing the exact oppressive model that massacres the population completely invisibly. This overwhelming storm of evil simultaneously highlighted the unbeatable instinctual tenacity of the explorers. Enduring brutal epidemics and infernal famines expose the dark, slippery boundary where divine human genius fatally collides with total and uncontrollable monstrosity. Modern industrial cement has sadly failed to purge the impurities of our predatory essence. Bloody ambushes planned in the dead of the dusty night are now beautifully executed by cruel technological algorithms that tear careers apart in a fierce cybernetic blink of an eye. Absorbing this historical filth is seeing in the mirror the cruel primate that inhabits our unexplored interior. The relentless adoration of financial superiority is the tragic testament left by ancient mercenaries who drafted macabre laws using the infinite suffering of weak citizens. Undeniably, the gigantic weight of this proven cruelty entirely annihilates the artistic lies. While rich audiovisual culture persists in giving standing ovations to incredibly elegant vigilantes, the scars on the ground demonstrate a massive hidden disgrace. The much-desired national progress devoured naive souls and exacted a formidable toll filled with bitter, endless sorrow. Coldly accepting these shocking revelations completely destroys the beautiful poetry taught during our enchanted youth. Today we admire the clear portrait of a gigantic open-air coliseum, where absolute brutality was the most coveted skill needed just to breathe under the dark stars. The painful remnants of this calamity left in the canyons raise the greatest warning siren ever imagined. Every tiny glowing nugget found at the expense of others' sweat acts as a terrifying lighthouse begging for eternal mercy, so we don't repeat the same sins seduced by fool's gold. The supernatural magnet of these terrible outlaw episodes will keep attracting innovative minds for consecutive millennia. No matter the astronomical level of modern technological security achieved, the ghostly echo of buzzing bullets will always deeply disturb the peace of comfortable society. My profound goal here is that this dark and gloomy journey completely tears away the smokescreen that blinded your beliefs. The perception of the past collapses immediately and irreversibly when the rotting face of aggressive selfishness dares to reveal its dreadful and hateful smile. The legendary fantasy gunslingers will magically decorate your living room screen for many decades to come. However, you now possess the agonizing and essential power to laugh at the artificial shine, distinguishing the cinematic farce from the lethal barbarity rooted in the hostile West. From stolen corpses shamelessly displayed to brave miners discarded like industrial trash, this cursed circus frighteningly reflects the Western soul itself. It is the dark reflection of the monstrous pillars of hypocrisy that greedily uphold the modern buildings of the entire nation. Out of these 20 absurdly insane and forbidden facts I just revealed, which one shook your solid beliefs the most? Leave your honest opinion in the comments below, click the like button right now, immediately follow our channel, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next videos.